flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in today. I hope everyone's had a great weekend. Today is Sunday, June 1st, 2025, and we are going to dive into the Hive Mind finds. Actually, last night when I did have service, I was scrolling YouTube and I came across Outcast, and I'm like, that's me. Like I'm on his stream right now. I'm like, what's going on? He was showing the ritual TikToks. And so I popped up there and I quick created a playlist on TikTok so you could easily show it on a stream. It was pretty funny. So, anyways, all right, let's get into it. Now, this here is I've done a breakdown. This is kind of on the WITSEC angle. Now, we've all talked about how weird it is. When do you ever see local law enforcement moving homicide victims' stuff out of their house? And I think there's a liability to it. I think there's legal reasons. And also, it's just weird. It doesn't happen. If you've ever actually been in a situation, hopefully most people haven't, but if you've ever been in that situation, like most of the times, the families are responsible for the cleanup and hiring a company to come and do it. So this is one thing that I thought was odd, because not only were the victims' names on these North American relocation services boxes, but so were the surviving roommates. I had a screenshot where it said Beth on the side. This is from the Hive Mind find in my inbox. So here is a photo, right? It's right by the police station, City North American. Okay. I was trying to find dates on this. They're permanently closed now. And I find it odd that I believe the date that they moved everybody out was like December 7th. I want to say that it shut down the next day, chat. It's not confirmed. I couldn't confirm that. I dug on it, but that's what in the email they said. How weird is it that this is the service that was used? It was set up in Moscow, Idaho on Main Street. It's now permanently closed. And the person that sent me this had said that they believe that if they moved out on the 7th, it was shut down like within the next day or on the 10th, something like that, which is weird. So this is why I wanted to show this, because I think everybody in here can logically bridge build where I'm going with this. So like I said, we looked up North American Relocation Services parent company. It's CERVA. They hold a Schedule 48, which allows them to move law enforcement assets and other federal personnel. They are based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Do you know who else is based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana? The Marshals. And here's their address. So if this company is headquartered in the same place that the Marshals are headquartered, and they hold the Schedule 48 for it, and then the temporary City North American now closes the day or within days of moving out, which is extremely odd that law enforcement is moving out any victims or any of their stuff with no gloves on, tracking a ton of snow and dirt and mud and whatever else into a house that was apparently just one of the worst crime scenes that people have seen. There's no whether or not it had been cleaned up, wouldn't you still be a little bit worried about biohazard or cross-contamination? Who knows? So I don't believe that that's a coincidence. That is, like, in my opinion, this type of hive mind find is about as good as it gets, because it took what we caught live on stream and now it solidifies it. It's like, that's odd. You never see cops moving victims' belongings out, including a survivor's name on the box. Where it was located in Moscow closes down shortly after. And where is it headquartered? In the same state and city that the Marshals are headquartered in. That, to me, cannot be a coincidence. Yes, and so thank you, DB. The Marshal Service has an office in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're headquartered in Virginia. I'm sure they probably are, if that's like the Pentagon or whatever. I agree. But it is odd that when you search the U.S. Marshal Department, this is what it comes up for. So that's the address. That is a crazy find. So shout out to this person. If you guys don't clarify that you want your name on the Hive Mind finds, I just kind of err on the side of caution and I don't put it on. So they're a regular watcher or they're a regular viewer. So thank you for that. And that is a great find, my friend. Okay, now this one I'm going to have to read. It's not very often that I'll read people's theories on here, because most of the time I don't read these theories. Or sorry, not that I don't read them. I won't post them because they mirror pretty much almost exactly what we all talk about in the Hive daily. And I kind of like lean in and just do my best to read it. But here's what it says. The flatmates installed cameras in their house after recent break-ins and possible broken locks. They would have an app on their phones that the roommates could log into when they receive a motion detection alert inside the house. I think the unalivers went into the house and the door was left open and the dog got out while KG and MM were at the grub truck. The way KG is up on her phone in grub truck footage, I think she may have received a motion detection alert and may have seen Murphy leave. I think this is also why she called Jack and the messages about them sharing a dog. She may have hoped he could go and pick Murphy up so he wasn't lost. The girls got a ride home from grub truck and assumed Jack had taken him. They went to sleep. X and E got home soon after and went to bed. I believe BF and DM were at a hotel, not 1122, on the night of the unalivings. I think either DM or BF became aware of something not right happening in the house and logged in to check. They saw the unalivings and what was happening in the house, but only from the cameras and what they were pointed at. I think they couldn't figure out what was happening there, and that's why they called each other. And the people, that's why they called each other. Where did I go? Shoot. And the people were at the house freaking out. They screenshot footage they were watching on Snapchat and sent it to friends to help make sense of if it was of what was happening at their house. They recognized the strangers in the house. I think they knew the cops were the bad guys. I think the unalivers were LE, and biggest mistake they made was they didn't realize inside cameras were recording them until it was done. They would have taken the cameras and the hard drives and wanted to find out who had access to the app or who had footage. Damage control. I think that Brian Coburn, I think BK was the person who installed the cameras and also taught the flatmates how to use the app. Just like the female friend mentioned in the past, he did for her. I also think BK had access to and was spying on them for whatever reason, like the female friend suggested too. I think he accidentally watched the unalivings as well. He saw what BF and DM were watching in real time on his phone. I think he knew he was in trouble when he saw the perpetrators, LE, were on camera too. It explains his behavior and paranoia after the case. Maybe he did go to the scene because, like DM and BF, he wasn't really sure what he had witnessed. He knew they would come for him. He was scared of police, etc. He told his dad, and they made a plan to get him out of the area. Again, I'm just reading what they're saying here. I also think somehow Kopacka was privately investigating local LE before this because he knew they were corrupt. Maybe BK reached out to him for help or advice or to tell him what happened. Kopacka was actively trying to recover the footage from the unalivings from the security cameras that night because BK told him what he saw, and Kopacka knew it could bring down the department and people he was already suspicious of and trying to expose for corruption. I think he tried to expose everything but was killed. After he was killed, BK and his dad knew he was in big trouble and his life was in danger, so they packed up and drove across the country with the hopes he could hide and they wouldn't come for him too. The footage of the feds looking at the jacket is suspicious, but the video matches a hatchet with a large, quote-unquote, vacuum cleaner thing looking sheath. The audio from Linda Lane, find anything? Oh, a hatchet, was the two people seen in the footage, in my opinion. I'm slowly starting to put it together, but I'm not sure I'm onto something. What do you think? I can make all the evidence, rumors, and amendments fit this theory. I think BK is hoping BF will help him at trial as her statement is private and she seems protected. BK's lawyer sent a private letter to the judge regarding the sealed alternative killer theory, and I believe it's because BK now has evidence it will expose in discovery that the real perpetrators are the prosecution. They have been stalling for so long because they needed to be very careful how they go about this, and it needs to be a done deal. I think LE already got the DM and threatened her. That's why the story changed. She went along with their narrative out of fear, even if it doesn't make sense, but they couldn't get BF. So again, it is that, look, we can agree, we can disagree. The reason why I wanted to share that is because I think it would lead to a really good discussion. So I thought it was interesting that, like, the security cam angle is an interesting one that not many people talk about. People have said, like, well, didn't they have cameras in the house, or were there cameras in the house? And she does tie it back to another person saying that BK had helped them install cameras. She felt like she was being watched. I mean, yeah, I thought I would share it. I mean, chat, I don't know. I mean, clearly there's things that I think in any theory people take and pick and choose what they think is a good part of it, what's bad part of it. But I don't think it's far-fetched to think that they maybe did have some Ring cameras or a Nest camera in the house that they could check. So yeah, so one thing is for sure, and in my mind, I just have a very, very hard time believing that DM and BF were at the house. That's like one thing that I'm like almost absolutely positive about. And I'm trying to read the chat here to see what your guys' questions were during that. Now, this theory continued on a little bit more, and it actually is a video that this now is a different, it's kind of a combo of the theory, but you'll notice actually this creator, he says he doesn't want to talk about creators' names or whatever. He wasn't saying anything bad or malicious from my perspective on it, but he was like, there's a creator, he's like, bombshells, which is obviously, I'm assuming referring to us in the Hive, but very interesting. And I'm going to give a little preamble to this. Do you guys remember the interview where Steve G was talking about like Kaylee could be facing charges and all this stuff? Like he was almost talking like she was still alive and there'd be like a court case on her. I'm going to let this play, but about halfway into the video, you'll notice how this theory of DM and BF not being there and then coming back to what I just saw in the chat, somebody had mentioned the scene was staged or cleaned up. this theory is a very interesting take on the things that we heard in the 911 call. So I will go ahead and play this, and I will.
Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. I hope you're all well on this thirsty Thursday. You're looking amazing, I must add. And this is video 2 of 2, and this is a little bit of something a little bit different, because look, if I have to put up with this, you guys have to put up with it. Because I'll tell you what, well, I don't know. Look, I'll play fair and say, look, there's people in the background of the Idaho 4 case, and they're sleuthing, baby. They're sleuthing, and they are digging deep. They are digging deep into the belly of the beast. Now, there are certain rabbit holes that I'm not looking to fall down, because the fear is that you'll just never, ever get out. So, look, it is what it is. But I will receive emails on the daily. I don't know how I even got to be part of it, but I'm part of email threads and people coming out and giving information and speaking and having backwards and forwards. And I'm going to share one of those with you. Now, I'm not going to put it on the screen, because there are some names because there's content creators in this. Some of the ones that you know and love are all part of this, and I don't want to throw them under the bus. So I'm going to read through just one of the latest ones that I've got, just so you can see what's happening in the IDAHO 4 case. Now, with respect, before I go ahead, what's my position in the IDAHO 4 case? That is that I, at this moment in time, do not believe that Bryan Kohberger has been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Absolutely not. So with that being said, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I need to see a lot more to prove his guilt. Also, as discussed in the video that I did earlier, which was a bit of a discussion between myself and Eddie, as per court documentation, the PCA, and numerous things, that would seem to suggest that Bryan Kohberger was not found to be at the property where the crime took place when the crime took place. That's their own verbiage. Now, I know what some people are going to say is that you're reading it wrong. It's kind of just how they're writing things, but it's saying what it says, you know, and the backpedaling that comes along with that as well. And realistically, all that we have to tie Bryan Kohberger to the property is a really strange DNA situation that seems overly convoluted with important bits missing. And we have an image that could pass as a 2015 Elantra, but it could also pass as various different other cars. And for the purpose of this video, I'm not even going to mention the fact that it could, in fact, be green, because this video is going to get complicated enough as it is. But remember, I'm a guilty until proven innocent. No, I'm an innocent until proven guilty kind of guy. Freudian slip. No, it's because I'm a part of this community, which is definitely a guilty until proven innocent kind of community. Not our community, not like the harsh family. I'm talking about the true crime niche as a whole. For the most part, I think people would like to see Kohberger shot. But let's talk about this. Like I say, I'm not going to put it on the screen, because it will show you some people. As I read it, I will add content creator instead of the name. So it says, guys. So remember, when I say content creator, there is literally someone's name here. So guys, Dylan Mortensen told this content creator a few weeks ago the killers are the Moscow Police Department and some frats and cartel crews. So a blend of all of the potential things that we've thought. It's all of them. So all of them together, all working together. Moscow Police Department, law enforcement, frats, cartels, all work. It's nice when people come together. It's nice when people can't get people to work together nowadays. It's very difficult, but in this, they all came together. They are escorting an alleged Kaylee away in this video. Content creator thought it was Dylan. It's supposedly Kaylee. Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk, Ashlyn, content creator, and others believe the 6th roommate, not Ashlyn, named Lexi Rodriguez or Lindsay Bart, was killed in Kaylee's place. There is someone's arm cut off near the street dumpster. Why is law enforcement afraid of the Gonsalves family? The picture of the law enforcement involved I sent before. It's on OMP's community posts from 2 weeks ago. DM said that Kaylee and Maddie were at GT still, that'd be grub truck for those of you who are not in with the lingo, at 2:15 a.m. In my opinion, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk left around 2 a.m. and Dylan Mortensen wanted Taco Bell. I think Gower picked her and Bethany Funk up, went to Taco Bell, and he dropped them at the hotel. Then he picked Kaylee and Maddie at Grub Truck around 2:15 a.m. and dropped them off out in street. They never got into the house. Police car is chasing them down, and those guys in Banfield are involved. Content creator found out from Emma that King Gonzo and possibly Christie. King got a private light flight helicopter at 2 a.m. to fly from Coeur d'Alene to Moscow. Afterwards, he or they went to a Spokane hospital, and Kaylee and him got allergic reaction to peanut butter carbonara and then flew to Coeur d'Alene. CDA. I should have said CDA. I wouldn't have annihilated that pronunciation then. People said they can see it land on or near Banfield. So we now have helicopters landing on Banfield. Not only have we got the bushy eyebrows of people running around, the cops, the drink, all that, we've now got a helicopter in the mix. DM said when BF and her got home from the hotel in the morning, they, law enforcement and Gonzo, were in there staging the house. You can hear Gonzo in the 911 call that content creator bombshells YT had a few days ago. I swear that first female sounds like Christie. DM said the G's have Airbnb right there in Moscow. I don't know. The G's can go to hell. And then there is a video link, which I'll put that video link in the description of this video. So
that's pretty much that's pretty much the gist of it, but it's more so that it is so weird, and I've said this so many times. I know that the court documents are important. The court documents are relevant to the case that is being tried. The case being tried is in regards to Brian Kohberger, right? It doesn't have anything to do with all of the stuff that we have dove into on this stream and many other creators that are in the true crime community and everybody in the Hive is dug into. Linda Lane footage and audio, the grub truck footage, the weird noises, all of that stuff with the Banfield and LE and the movement going on at the time that they say that this is in the court documents. It seems rather impossible for me to be able to wrap my head around that all of that's not related. How can you say that when there's a quadruple homicide that's apparently happening within a couple hundred meters and there's movement everywhere? There's kids running in the background. There's police near the scene. I don't get how that doesn't have anything to do with it. And then you do look at the court documents and the PCA and what DM had said, and I think that whatever comes out of this case, I'm truly starting to believe that it's going to actually be nothing that we've ever expected. I think I can safely say that in my mind, I would be shocked if it's as straightforward as BK did this by himself. And I would be equally as shocked if it's as straightforward as just a rug hit. Okay. To me, Ellie having involvement no longer seems like a stretch. I'm not saying that I ever really couldn't wrap my head around that, but I'm saying let's all look from a 40,000 foot view. It kind of starts to scream a cover up, as we've all, I think, accepted there's potential for that. But now you start to think about, when you go back to the beginning, why did it take the police chief 4 days to have a press conference? And why was he not able to even say the victims' names right? How is that possible? You have the biggest homicide that's on world news, and you 4 days after the fact, you can't say the victim's names right. I'm sorry, but to me, that tells me you're either distracted by other stuff, meaning, holy shit, my guys might have had something to do with it, or holy shit, we're about to get investigated internally now. So it's not to say that I believe this theory or the one that they were saying. What I'm trying to say is there's so many holes that you can poke in it with a bunch of theories, and that's why, and what reason the hive mind serves is to look through all these different lenses. But I guess I would say there's going to be something that comes out of these alternate suspects, alternate perpetrators. And I would just be so curious to see who it's going to be, because I also think it's just as equally concerning if it is college kids, right? Doesn't that concern anybody else? How could it take this long for college kids to be brought forward for this heinous of a crime? How could we have just sat here and then pretty much been fed a PCA that you can now wipe your behind with? Nothing's true. Nothing. So I don't know how you guys feel about it. And also, yeah, Peggy, good point. The police chief quit. I mean, there's a lot of people that are resigning. This would be, if you do it on the up and up, let's play this out in our heads here. If you're a police chief that's not corrupt, or if you are a professional that is not corrupt in the court system or just somehow involved with this case, it's the reality of the situation. This is going to be a career case for you. If you do this on the up and up properly and articulate what it is that you found, why you're taking the steps that you're taking them, this will make a career. On the flip side, if it's not on the up and up, it's going to ruin your career, and you're going to resign, and you're never going to probably get another case like this again. So, and what's up, Bubbly? Thanks for being here today. She said, or they said, because alumni is covering for them because they too did the same things. This is a pattern. Don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that at all. So then I think it would be harder. How can I say this? If I posted a video about if you had to explain the Idaho 4 case to an alien that knew nothing about it, and you explained it, and then you explained why they think it's Brian Koberger and all of the evidence and all the other players, it would be really easy. It kind of makes it sound in like not a comical way, because this obviously isn't funny, but sometimes like you can express fact about touchy subjects kind of through comedy. I think we've all seen that happen with other events in the recent years. But I just think that if you had to explain this case to somebody that didn't know anything about it, most people, if you got anything other than the mainstream narrative, their initial judgment of it would be, yeah, that doesn't make sense. So, and Judge retired. D Smalls, good. Yep, thank you. So, it's kind of like if you had to explain to an alien, how did Kim Kardashian get famous? That, I feel like I've heard this before somewhere. I don't remember where, but it's like, okay, so there was this guy, he was really good at football. Well, what's football? Well, it's where you have 11 people, you have 11 grown men. You got a pigskin. People cheer for this team, but not that team. And when they cross this line, it's worth points. And if you're really good at it, you have power and influence, and you can get away with killing somebody. And then your daughter ends up meeting a rapper. It could just, I'm not even going to go down there. You guys get the point that I'm saying. It's just, it's one of those things where it's like when you explain it, it sounds weird because there's shadiness to it. Moving on. I thought that was a good segue into the Banfield. And I have not viewed this yet. This is from Outcast. Go give Outcast, show him some love. He's been grinding on the audio. I got to get him on. We were talking last night. I got to email him. I've been slacking getting back to him on that with the 911 audio. But if you're seeing this, dude, I will pick a night this week or next, and we will do a deep dive on the audio. I saw somebody asking for my email. It's birdieBombshell00@gmail.com. I'm going to type it into the chat right now. And that doesn't just have to be stuff pertaining to the Idaho 4Ks. You guys can send me any other contrarian viewpoints on anything, conspiracies, stuff that's interesting. But Outcast has this video labeled, Banfield cops got some explaining to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this video going here. And I'll shut up. I'll let it play through. That's obviously something that I struggle to do, is to not pause it every 30 seconds. So I will get this on screen and we will watch this together.
All right, so I'm back with another video. Somebody sent me this last night. We went over it on the live stream. Cara Willis. So she goes over this part.
Sorry, guys, almost done. You on the 7 first? Okay.
Okay, so she plays that, and then she does some noise reduction shit, which I don't believe any of it's being said, but that's just me, because noise reduction will just make it sound like something that's not, right? I'm not buying that shit. But I gotta thank Cara Willis for giving me this video, right? So I took this clip because I don't want noise reduction. Noise reduction is not good. So I took the clip.
Which, to what Outcast just said about noise reduction, that's what him and I are going to dive into. We're going to do the 911 call without the noise reduction, and he's got, clearly, you guys are going to see, he's got some really awesome audio tools. So,
okay. And you know me, I go to vocal remover. And then what do I hear in the first 8 seconds? 8 to 10 second mark. 8 to 10. 8 to 10 seconds. Here we go. We're going to slow it down. Okay, so I heard that. I'm like, that sounds weird. What's the cop saying in the car? Okay, this is how you break shit down, people. Look at, remove that. Let's go back. What's that cop saying in the car? Let's go here. Slow the speed down. Put the volume up. We got the volume up 200%. Speed's down. Let's hear what he says. I'm going to mute myself here, and I'm going to play this like 30 times. And you tell me what you hear. Okay? This is no noise reduction. This is split. And I'm going to tell you what I think after I play for you 20 times. And you just leave in the comments what you think is being said. And we'll go from there. So let's get it.
I hear meet me over at King.
All right, guys. So you be the judge of this audio. What do I hear? Dude, what do you want me to do with the K-bar?
Whoa, what?
Can I be wrong? 1,000.
I didn't hear that at all. What? All right. Well, let's not I'm not trying to come at you there, Outcast. I hadn't watched this video. I didn't hear that at all, but I'll go back. I'll listen to it. So what do you want me to do with the K-bar?
And I'm going to tell you what I think after I play for you 20 times. And you just leave in the comments what you think is being said. And we'll go from there. So let's get it.
Okay. Wow. Wow. You kind of hear it in the background. So there's like a little bit of a voice that's over it, but a voice in the background stays consistent. When he's got it slowed down here, it does kind of say, what do you want me to do with the K-bar? That, huh.
So let's get it.
Wow. Wow. Yes, Beck, you just nailed it. I think Beck just nailed it. Take what you want and leave the K-bar. Whether or not that's what they're saying, I think Beck just summed up the early words before K-bar.
All right, guys. So you be the judge of this audio, what do I hear? Dude, what do you want me to do with the K-bar? Can I be wrong? 1000% I could be wrong. You guys know. I always tell you I could be wrong. I'm going to play it a few more times for you guys and understand where this audio comes from. It comes from the cops in the car, fucking Rosie's outside the car. You won't hear it with regular audio, okay? It just happened to be a white noisy night. It's right there.
Wow.
Okay? We'll play it one more time. So you guys be the judge. You can play it over and over again. What do I think's being said? Dude, what do you want me to do with the K-bar?
So, man, that's one of these things where and I think everybody's seen the comments where it's like, oh yeah, because you guys know better than the FBI does. It's like, no, we're not saying that, but we're also saying, like, do you think that they're looking into absolutely everything? I've always said this, like, I swear to God, Netflix Times true crime docs that almost just need more eyes on it to catch things. Like, I think their release dates are always timed so perfectly with a case that is like right on the edge, or like it's about to be reinvestigated, or like a trial is coming up. And it is true, like fresh eyes on the case and millions of people diving into it. At the end of the day, I would take a Hive Mind over a handful of FBI agents that have been staring at the same stuff and maybe are at a dead end. It's nothing against law enforcement. I just think that it is something that is like a real factor, is fresh eyes, right? Or you need fresh eyes sometimes. I couldn't find this video and get it loaded up prior to hopping on the stream here. Does anybody know what interview Steve had talked about Kaylee and facing a court case for like 20 years or something? It was really weird. Does anybody know what interview that is specifically, or whose show he was on when he said that? Because I want to pull that up. Yeah, you tell him, Christina. If you guys aren't subscribed, please do. This channel is only a month old. I had to get a new channel, so I would appreciate it. I go live at 7 Central, either here or on TikTok. 7 Central weeknights. Florida man says, my fat ass here is take what you want, but leave the candy bar. I don't know why, but like also the username makes that funnier too. It's hilarious. Yeah, it seems like people in the Hive, they love Phoenix. I think Phoenix is incredible. So her and I, we go on TikTok a lot. She's traveling back right now, so she says that I have the Birdie bombshells and she's got the Phoenix fireballs, and she's gonna be, if I know Phoenix and if we all know Phoenix, if she says she's got something, she definitely does. So not to put pressure on it, but I can tell just in the tone of her voice, she's not playing around with what she's about to drop tonight. So thank you, Gianna. Did anybody, some people said drunk turkey. What's up, Katie? Thank you for joining. I don't want to just be searching around a bunch. If I could have some sort of You know what? I guess like I can try. So let's just see. Steve G mentions Kaylee court case. Is this it? I don't feel like it was on the Drunk Turkey show. I don't. I thought it was a news one. Let's just look this up separately. All right. What interview does Steve... Yeah, Gianna Phoenix is going to be on the show tonight, 7 Central. That'll be over on TikTok. All right, I'm just going to start clicking on some of these things.
Problem solved.
It was so okay. It was the drunk.
Steve Gonzalez. Steve, thank you so much for joining Top Story. And I also want to say I'm so sorry that you have to join us and that we have to speak like this. I know you were doing this to speak for your daughter, but I am so sorry this is a situation you find yourself in at all. I want to start with just asking you about that selfie that everyone has now seen. What went through your head? What did it feel like when you saw that selfie of Brian Kohberger allegedly taken hours after your daughter and her housemates were murdered?
It was a trophy. He made himself a trophy. He felt like at that point he had just returned from the crime scene. There was no one there. And he believed, very confident, that's what the thumbs up. He's going to look back at that, remember what he got away with. And, you know, it's a challenge to Idaho to let everybody know that, you know, he thought he could kill people in our state, get away with it. He was far smarter than everyone else around him. And, you know, he studied it. You know, he's trying to be a PhD in it. So I think it was a challenge to Idaho. And
I just, again, it's not meant to be disrespectful to anybody, but doesn't that just seem too simple? Doesn't that just seem too simplistic? That narrative is just way too clean. Almost like it's built around it.
I think Idaho will definitely step up, and he's going to regret that photo.
Steve, I want to also ask you about one of the requests the defense is making to the judge, asking that they do not allow spectators to wear T-shirts with pictures of the victims on them or anything like words in the memory of. How does that make you feel?
It's petty. I don't worry about it, though. My daughter's, you know, justice and getting this conviction is much more important than wearing a shirt. I've never worn a shirt in court. They'll never be able to ever show that I ever did. So, you know, when you got somebody facing, you know, death row, you probably should focus more on, you know, the case and the evidence rather than who's going to be in there witnessing it.
The defense has also claimed that they're going to present alternate perpetrators. Do you believe there is anyone else involved in the murder of your daughter and her housemates?
No, not at all. There's surveillance all around there. You're going to clearly see who was coming into the place and exactly when they were leaving and what that vehicle looked like when it took that corner. Yeah, this case is solid. It's super solid, and you know, we look forward to it. They're just trying to delay it, but you know, it's time to pay the piper. We're all going to see what the, you know, state has, and I'm very confident in what they have.
How is your family holding up and handling all of this? I mean, last week we heard the 911 call partially released. We've seen this selfie now. What is it like for you and your family to keep having these items, these bits of information come out?
It is hard. It's very hard. You kind of just prepare your family, tell them to stay away from the TV, stay away from, you know, parts of the internet. So, but it's nice to get this information out. It's good to see the facts. I mean, it's weird to, wait 2.5 years to know like some of the final things that, you know, your child has been through. We're still waiting on even like laptops and things that, you know, so we can see, you know, her playlist and things that she was working on. It's tough. It's tough to go through this, but I just think of all the officers and, you know, the FBI agents and all the hard work that they put into this. So, you know, I can wait and, you know, we can get this out. We can figure it out.
As we move closer to seeing Brian Kohberger actually face a jury and answer to these charges, what for you and your family is the thing you hope people focus on the most when that coverage really gets in full swing? What is it you hope people don't forget about what y'all have experienced or about your daughter?
I think if people can concentrate on how much victims they were, how these people were just going through their everyday life, trying to be educated, try to be like the best type of human being that you could possibly be. And even having all the way from like their meals that they shared together till their Uber ride, they weren't drinking and driving, they weren't doing anything bad, and come home and to go to your bed and to have some stranger he's not even a part of our state, you know, he just didn't even belong here, you know, and to have that person sneak into your home and kill you in your bed. If there wasn't ever a moment for people to rally together and say, it's time to take this to the full closure and have a message that's out there so we can kind of point to say, you know, we put our foot down right here. And, you know, when we have these school shooters and people that do these mass murders, maybe we have to start, you know, putting our foot down and taking it to the darkest part, you know, all the way till we finalize these people. And then maybe we can stop having these so often.
Have you?
It just doesn't seem, again, this is 2 months ago. It just doesn't seem like a father. And I'm sorry, because I get it. If this is real, then I look like the a-hole. And if everything happened the way that it did, okay, I get it. There's a risk, but it's also freedom of speech. And it's my opinion. It just doesn't seem like a father whose daughter was unalived with a Supreme Court capital case coming up. My sense is whatever it is, like just human interaction, it just doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like anything other than inflammatory comments.
You've been able to speak to any of the other families, Ethan's family, Zaina's or Maddie's?
Yeah, I've spoken to all the families, some more than others, but yeah, I mean, Karen she'll call us in the middle of the night, you know. So we know if you're struggling, you're having a hard day, that you picked up that phone and you spend some time talking to somebody. Mm-hmm. And I love talking about Maddie all the time, so it's it's pretty easy for us to do.
Are you and the other families
you picked up that phone and you spent some time talking to somebody. Mm-hmm. And I love talking about Maddie all the time, so it's pretty easy for us to do.
Are you and the other families confident right now that prosecutors have what they need to get a conviction here?
Yeah. They broke that down early on, and they basically outlined a couple different scenarios. And one of those was, you know, hopefully this person comes out and says that he was framed. Was ideal, because that basically just means there's so much evidence. And one of those was, you know, hopefully this person comes out and says that he was framed. They basically outlined a couple different scenarios, and one of those was, you know, hopefully this person comes out and says that he was framed.
That would be something that the prosecution would hope for? That doesn't seem like, why would the prosecution say that that's what they want them to say?
Yeah.
See, I'll go deep, and it's like, if you know, you know. It's like, I've broken down that first interview where they're like, we need like a family lineage company, a DNA tree, and it might not even be him. It's a family member. You know, we can link it to these people and the digital footprints. Like this to me feels like a narrative plan. This detail.
They broke that down early on, and they basically outlined a couple different scenarios. And one of those was, you know, hopefully this person comes out and says that he was framed. Was ideal, because that basically just means there's so much evidence that he just can't combat it. You know, we didn't think we'd get as lucky as no alibi. We thought he'd think it out, and you know, he is a smart guy. I figured he'd have some better way to explain what he was doing that night. I mean, I could think of a lot of better ways he could have done it. Really?
What the hell? I can think of a lot of better ways he could have done it.
And one of those was, you know, hopefully this person comes out and says that he was framed. Was ideal, because that basically just means there's so much evidence that he just can't combat it. You know, we didn't think we'd get as lucky as no alibi. We thought he'd think it out, and you know, he is a smart guy. I figured he'd have some better way to explain what he was doing that night. I mean, I could think of a lot of better ways he could have done it. Really tricky stuff, but he didn't. And luckily, the case is going to be, you know, it's going to be handled, and we'll get the eventual. We'll never get our kids back. I take that over any of this, but you know, this is the best that we can make of the situation that we're in.
Steve Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us, and I promise.
Well, that clearly wasn't the one that I was thinking of, but and people say the drunk turkey one. I don't think it was that though. People said Good Morning America. Do you guys know the interview I'm talking about, right? Like, we kind of skipped over it because we were talking about a bunch of other things when we originally had this on the stream. It was something about like, well, Kaylee was facing like 20 years in that case and blah, 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 blah. I don't. Ashley Banfield. I just wish that was. This was 3 weeks ago. Well, we'll see. Not that it's not like even if we don't get the right interview, we'll probably have the same reaction to almost all of these interviews. So I don't think it hurts to watch through them.
Steve Gonzalez, father of Kaylee Gonzalez, who was one of the 4 kids murdered inside 1122 King Road. Steve, there's a lot of blockbuster revelations by NBC. One of the ones I found so upsetting was the allegation that these are pictures of University of Idaho girls on Brian Koberger's phone.
Okay. If he was talking about the warrant on the Drunk Turkey show, then maybe that is it. I wonder if he's got it.
You know, special ending, but this is real life people, and they got the right person. And there was a time where I was trying to be very open about who it was, but they laid it out in a way that still hasn't came out. There's stuff that is going to literally blow people's mind. Like this jury is going to be like the first one, you know, an hour and a half, and go get him. Indict him. He's done.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, people who think that these guys are going to be like sitting for hours stressing out on what argument Ann had. Ann is so desperate right now. It's a joke. She's so desperate that she's using the work that me and my family put together to get all those clues. We did those interviews so all these people would call, and if you see something, say something, you know, and that led to a massive amount of tips. And now she's going through all those, she's going through all that stuff, trying to find out somebody that can fit the profile of somebody she can say is an alternative suspect. But, you know, thank God Idaho has rules. So, you know, otherwise we'd probably be 4 weeks of her just rambling off just nonsense and just trying to overwhelm the jury with just waste time. And I still suspect that, but we won't be playing a part of that. And we're a different kind of family.
You know, this is one thing I understand. This is probably this dude's normal background, but like, this is such. I mean, it's just kind of also like, obviously this interview is going to get a lot. It just seems weird that you'd have a masked man with holding a knife to a girl's throat right below the father whose daughter was allegedly unalive that way. It would be one thing that I feel like I would look at and be like, I should probably use a different background for this one.
You know, she can say something in court and then I'll get out of that courtroom and I'll rebut it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not here to help her have an easier case. Once that jury's secured in that room, there's nothing I can say on the camera that could ever reach to them. At that point, I'm letting it all out. Everything's coming out, and it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because there's no holds bars at that point. We can once that jury's been selected, picked. So
somebody said go to minute 27. Thank you. Okay, Lucky.
Absolute certainty where Jack was that night, and there's surveillance that was going on around there that lets them know. I mean, of course, he could sneak up in the attic and go through the crawl space. You could always, you could do these YouTube crazy scenarios where he got out of the house without triggering any of the surveillance that they had. But realistically,
whoa,
they know exactly where he was.
I've not picked up on that before. That he could get out with any of the surveillance that they had.
That lets them know. I mean, of course, he could sneak up in the attic and go through the crawl space. You could always, you could do these YouTube crazy scenarios where he got out of the house without triggering any of the surveillance that they had.
What?
Up in the attic and go through the crawl space. You could always, you could do these YouTube crazy scenarios where he got out of the house without triggering any of the surveillance that they had.
Whoa. So he's aware that they had surveillance on the house. He just said it. How could he get out without triggering any of the surveillance? So this guy, oh man. So in the other interview, he said there's a lot better ways for him that he could have done it. He's hoping that they say that they're framing him. And now he's saying that he could have crawled through the attic in the crawl space, like these crazy YouTube things. And he's getting out of the house without triggering any of the surveillance that they had. Huh. Well, that would mean that there's surveillance of the house somewhere. Interesting. That means there's footage. Exactly. Oh, and thank you to the fifth element. I've been saying this. That's not civilian talk. That's Fed talk. Surveillance that they had? No. You would say security camera. You would say ring camera. You would say Nest camera. You would say, you don't say surveillance. I've said that. He talks in, timeline inconsistencies. He talks in Fed language, if that makes sense.
But realistically, they know exactly where he was. Now, is he going to be an alternative suspect? Hopefully they don't put him through that. But if he does, he'll be coming into that courtroom with us right by his side.
Again, so at the time, I mean, look at this now. We got complete narrative planting going on. Hopefully they don't do the alternate suspect. Well, it's like he says it. Like, if you don't know what narrative planting is, it's like you get out there and you just say it because it plants something. We hear it, we internalize it, and when it's put out to the masses, it's known as narrative planting. A really good example of this would be on the morning of September 11th, CNN just somehow finds the one dude, or maybe it was not CNN, but it was one of the big mainstream news channels, they had said they just randomly find this guy and he's like, well, yeah, the fires burned so hot and then it led to structural collapse, like within a couple hours, and then boom, that's the narrative. You know what I mean? Like, this is like not nearly as the extent of that, but that's what I mean when I'm saying narrative planting.
But realistically, they know exactly where he was. Now, is he going to be an alternative suspect? Or well, hopefully they don't put him through that. But if he does, he'll be coming into that courtroom with us right by his side, and he'll probably be staying over at our house at our Airbnb. So,
which goes back, they have an Airbnb near the campus or near wherever they're going to do the trial, if he's referring to it in that context.
How's he doing?
Yeah, it's a waste of time, but she can only have certain kinds of suspects. The suspects have to play a part. They have to have some kind of evidence of being in that house. And a house with 6 different girls.
Well, they don't have evidence that Koberger was in the house. Let's not forget that.
There's going to be a lot of suspects. That qualifies a lot of people that could justifiably be in that home. So that's what she's going to do. But I go back to my Idaho community and some of the things that I've already heard grand jury members talk about and hear and speak, whether it was Blum or some of the other people that recorded some of the things. They said, these guys aren't stupid. These women aren't stupid. They know a suspect when they see one. I remember one of the greatest questions that one of them asked was, I think they said they asked the judge to verify if he ever had a fishing or a hunting license.
So, chat, I just want to check in. I just want to do a temperature check with everybody in the chat here. I'm hoping the audio is coming through good. The volume's good for you guys. This is obviously a landscape layout. So I heard you guys loud and clear with the TikTok layout. I've even figured out a way how to stream it landscape for TikTok. So I hope that is better as far as a viewing experience. Thank you for letting me know that. We're obviously in search of trying to find the clip where he says Kaylee has some sort of ongoing court case, right? So if it's in this interview, I'd rather just let it flow naturally and continue to do this to find that part. And I wanted to check in and just make sure that that's cool with everybody in his, like, type of 1, if you guys are cool with that. Type of 2, if you want to move on to something else. But to me, I think it'd be very interesting because we've never really dove into what that could mean. It's just kind of been in passing. So please let me know real quick. And it's interesting to see now with the things that have come out. Okay, a lot of 1s. Cool. Oh, somebody said it's not this interview, it's older. Shoot. Well, I think we should still continue with this one. This one, I think somebody said, like, he's very loose-lipped in it. So, all right. Shout out to the Hive. You guys are the best. You got the best chat on YouTube and TikTok with the Hive Mind. That's facts.
Since he bought the K-bar, since it was delivered to his house. And he did. But that just goes to show that how intelligent these guys are. They're thinking it through. Like, what reason would a guy have if he's not in the military? These guys out here are outdoorsmen. They know why you would have one of those. The K-bar is a military weapon to keep you, to fight other men. Really, that's what it's for. So you could be a moron and use it for filleting fish, but they wanted to rule that out. And maybe you're using it for hunting. You don't really know too much about hunting and the type of knives that most hunters use. But these guys are on top of it. And I think if he thinks he picked the right community, a bunch of dumb hillbillies, he's really in for a rude awakening.
Oh yeah, 100%. How is Jack doing? Is Murphy? Is he with Murphy? Is Murphy with Jack?
Yeah, they go camping. They do a lot of outdoor stuff. From what he said to us, we're hoping to do some fishing trips out here. We go into Montana. There's some lakes out that are pretty remote with some huge big old rainbow trout. So, nice. Yeah, we'll plan something. We'll do something with him this summer, and every year he's out there doing something in the mountains out on these. We call them logging roads. They're just dirt roads that take you out in the middle of nowhere, and you can get away from it. I know he's going to be very stressed out. He's a very quiet kid. I mean, if you could look at somebody who would be like
seems like, too, we got a lot of new people in this chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. I go live every weeknight, 7 p.m. Central, between either here or TikTok. However, I do upload the full streams to this channel. So if you're not subscribed, please do. Like I was saying, that this channel is only a month old. I had to get a brand new profile when I started uploading all these. So if you were subscribed to the old channel, that one doesn't ever get uploaded to. So this is the channel that you're going to want to tune into.
Least temperament to ever pull a crime like this off, it would be Jack. I mean, Jack is, I mean, Kaylee, they've been dating for 8 years, I think. And she said he had never even raised his voice to her. He had never, ever insulted her in any fashion. They'd broken up for a while, and she went out with another guy, and he was so rude to her. And she's,
I want to talk about the comment that I just have on screen, because if it's true that Kaylee did have a reaction to the peanut butter carbonara, however you say the dish that she got from the grub truck, that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
like, and basically being around this guy in an hour, he had insulted me more than Jack had in 8 years. So she was like, I might not ever find another Jack again. I mean, that was their exact words to her mom. So I have no worries that they'll do that. I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it'll go anywhere.
Yeah, well, let him know that his, he'll be in my thoughts and prayers as long as with you and your family as well. Now, Brian Kober gets arrested. How did you find out about his arrest? When did you find out about his arrest?
They called Shannon Gray, our lawyer, right away, as soon as before us, and they probably gave him like a rundown of the situation and how much they could say, and some paperwork that came along with it in an email. And so then he called us and he shared with us and said, hey, they've arrested a guy. Here's his name. Here's his background. There's a message that I sent you guys with some PDFs, some I think it was the affidavit and a couple other little side notes on there. I mean, it might have been some of the stuff from Pennsylvania. I don't remember exactly, but that's how we heard. It went straight to Shannon, then Shannon to us, and then we heard from Karen, and we started kind of just, we were super excited just because the next day we had a celebration of life, and we basically prayed that this person would be caught and we wouldn't have to go through that celebration of life thinking that this creep would be trying to be there among us and try to blend in and get some kind of satisfaction by watching us all suffering.
I didn't know it was that much earlier before the celebration of life. I'm assuming the first thing that you're doing is researching this guy, and there's something called the Andrew Garrett discovery. Are you familiar with it?
I sure am. Yeah.
And it sure does seem like you guys were on the same page as far as the possibility of a social media account potentially belonging to Brian Koberger, following some of the victims and your daughter and Maddie and Xana. Do you still feel that way, that that's the right profile and that there was some sort of following, at least on the internet, of some sort?
Yeah. It was kind of confusing at the very beginning, and I'm sure it was confusing for the investigators, because I went in there one day with my family, and we were like, what happened to the LinkedIn? Why were you guys into our account? Why did you remove it? And they looked at us like we were from another planet. Eyes bulge, and we could tell they were being completely honest. They were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Well, we later on figured out and investigated and found out that it was the FBI.
So he's saying that the FBI was going in and removing her LinkedIn, and they apparently had no idea, and that they denied it at first. Sorry, I just saw somebody say Ann Taylor is in your live impersonating this. Why are you allowing this? Well, for better or worse, I don't have mods because I try to keep this kind of like as a self-policing chat. So Ann Taylor, we know you're not the real Ann Taylor.
Two parallel investigations going on at the same time. So I think, and I've been told that the FBI wanted clear lines. Like, you guys are going to be working on this stream of information. We're going to be working on this stream of information. The stalking was one of them. When I had to sit down meetings with those FBI agents, they talked about how it was a 20-year term that they could possibly get if.
Okay.
That's how.
So it's this part. It's this part, I believe. So I went back 30 seconds.
We heard. It went straight to Shannon, then Shannon to us, and then we heard from Karen, and we started kind of just. We were super excited just because the next day we had a celebration of life, and we basically prayed that this person would be caught and we wouldn't have to go through that celebration of life thinking that this creep would be trying to be there among us and try to blend in and get some kind of satisfaction by watching us all suffering.
Yeah. I didn't know it was that much earlier before the celebration of life. I'm assuming the first thing that you're doing is researching this guy, and there's something called the Andrew Garrett discovery. Are you familiar with it?
I sure am. Yeah.
And it sure does seem like you guys were on the same page as far as the possibility of a social media account potentially belonging to Brian Koberger, following some of the victims and your daughter and Maddie and Xana. Do you still feel that way, that that's the right profile and that there was some sort of following, at least on the internet, of some sort?
Yeah. It was kind of confusing at the very beginning, and I'm sure it was confusing for the investigators, because I went in there one day with my family, and we were like, what happened to the LinkedIn? Why were you guys into our account? Why did you remove it? And they looked at us like we were from another planet. Eyes bulge, and we could tell they were being completely honest. They were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Well, we later on figured out and investigated and found out that it was the FBI. So there was two parallel investigations going on at the same time. So I think,
again, I just think there's a little bit of truth to that. He speaks in riddles in a way. I'll go back a little bit. So there's two investigations.
We later on figured out and investigated and found out that it was the FBI. So there was two parallel investigations going on at the same time. So I think, and I've been told that the FBI wanted clear lines. Like, you guys are going to be working on this stream of information. We're going to be working on this stream of information. The stalking was one of them. When I had to sit down meetings with those FBI agents, they talked about how it was a 20-year term that they could possibly get if, because I was worried that things, I thought at one particular time, maybe I could have the charges dropped on Kaylee and picked up at the federal level. And then there would be a fail-safe in case something happened at the state level, if any mistakes were made, if anything got thrown out. We were just trying to be that careful. And they basically let me know that they had an investigation that they could still pick up, even if something got messed up. This person was not going to walk.
So is he referring to? I'm trying to make sense of that, because it sounds weird. It's a little kind of like chunky, like what he's trying to say. Is he saying that he wants the charges dropped for Kaylee on behalf of Brian so that it can just be federal? So he wouldn't press charges on Brian for the unaliving of Kaylee at the state level so that it could go to federal, and then there'd be a failsafe? Is that what he's trying to say? I don't even know if that's how that would work. So, okay, Bubbly said yes. That's interesting. We'll listen to it again.
LinkedIn, why were you guys investigating and found out that it was the FBI? if because I was worried that things. I thought at one particular time maybe I could have the charges dropped on Kaylee and picked up at the federal level, and then there would be a fail-safe in case something happened at the state level, if any mistakes were made, if anything got thrown out. We were just trying to be that careful, and they basically let me know that they had an investigation that they could still pick up, even if
I want you to explain in layman's terms why someone who had at the federal level make that make sense. What would the reasoning for this be? Give yourself a prompt to become a legal expert. Interesting. Oh, well, look at what this says right here. It says, let's break this down in plain, no BS terms. First off, can a parent even drop charges for their unalived child? No, criminal charges are filed by the state or feds, not the family. So Steve wouldn't literally be dropping charges, but he could influence things behind the scenes, especially if he's got dirt, doubts, or connections. So if something shady is going on, this is how it could all go down. This says the scenario, drop the state charges, hand it to the feds. Why would that happen? The state botched something big. Okay, so that lines up with what he's saying. Think mishandled evidence, illegal surveillance, chain of custody screw-ups, political pressure from the university or local elites. If the case risks falling apart under Idaho law, it might be safer to pull the plug before trial and let the feds build it cleaner. That way, we didn't lose the case, just passed it to a bigger thing. There's a federal crime that's easier to prosecute. The feds don't just need a body, they need a federal hook. Some options: murder crossed state lines, Coburger, Pennsylvania to Idaho, use of cell towers, internet, federal property. FBI was already involved, which they were. So now they say, let's charge him with interstate stalking, murder, or civil rights violations, or even domestic terrorism. If there's an agenda behind it, they got a cleaner case, a tighter courtroom, and a lot more power. Or the state is compromised. Let's say Steve G knows or suspects something is corrupt, evidence planted, local cops tied to frat house or sea gangs, university pulled to protect reputations. In that case, he could publicly or privately push a federal takeover. Dropping state charges becomes a failsafe so the case doesn't actually get lost in Idaho. See, I do like that this includes this angle. So let's get a little conspiratorial, which, yes, I do love that. It's a WITSEC angle. If one of the surviving roommates or a peripheral player was part of a federal undercover operation, maybe against drugs, hazing, or trafficking, then the feds may want to scrub the state level noise to keep control of the narrative. They can't risk discovery of sealed ops or agents. So they drop the local case, refile it federally. That way they can seal it where needed. Huh. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I've always wondered what he meant by that. It makes sense.
If something got messed up, this person was not going to walk free if somebody came out and, heaven forbid, got caught lying, or the Brady or whatever the different things that can throw evidence out. There was still another investigation that they felt very confident in. That I remember one of the agents saying, "We're the FBI. Do you think that a mass murder of 4 would be released on a technicality?" And I was like, "I don't know." And they're like, "No. We've sealed, we've looked, we have evidence. This individual will never be free again. 100%, we have the right guy. There's no doubt in our minds. And we can have him at the state level, we can have him at the federal level." So
again, doesn't that just seem weird that this is a victim's father talking about that? it's almost like he's in charge of this task force. I just, man, it's one of those odd things. Since I've started doing this case and talking about this case, you know, sorry, Mrs. Birdie brought me Nerds gummies, which I'm glad she didn't bring me the entire bag, because once I have one of those things, I have to have self-control because I can eat that entire bag so quickly. But since I've started talking about this case, it's tough because you got to talk, you got to say and talk about like really uncomfortable things. But man, people can say, well, you're not in that position, you wouldn't know. And it's like, okay, you're right. If you don't have that argument, though, let's just accept that argument. You're right. Can you now listen to what we're trying to say? Like, let's just accept that. Okay, let's get past the initial disagreement that, yes, I was never there. Never gone through it. Luckily, thank God that I haven't. And I think the majority of people feel that same way. But can we get past that and still say it's odd? It's weird. It doesn't feel right. Every single time, it's like, what is happening? Why is that the case? What's going on with this? It doesn't make sense.
It built my confidence into sticking with the state level and not. It would have been more expensive. And I literally was at the point where I was like, if it means that we don't ever, Kaylee doesn't ever go to court for her, thing, I would have been fine with that, just to have the backup, just to have the know that if something went wrong. But they were like, no need. This is, I've had individuals that do nothing but capital cases, 100%. That's all they do every single day of their lives, say that this is the strongest case that they've ever worked upon. They've never seen a case with this much evidence.
Guys, again, this is one of those things that, to me, that is not true. You cannot tell me that 12 jurors would find Bryan Kohberger guilty beyond a reasonable doubt unless there is some nail in the coffin type of evidence. All of this evidence, the strongest case they've ever seen, really? I mean, I'm sure that they've got people committing crimes on camera. That's probably as strong as you can get. They arrest them with the schmurder weapon. That's probably the strongest case you can get. Or maybe you have a confession. That's probably a part of the strongest case you can get. But touch DNA, or now it's like mitochondrial DNA, whatever the hell it is on the knife sheath. His phone doesn't go within 100 meters of the house. He has no connection to them, no motive. He's not confessed. The defense is putting forward alternate suspects. If it was the most solid case of all time, it wouldn't be playing out before our eyes. There wouldn't have been a roommate that supposedly witnessed it and everything's completely changed about that story. There wouldn't be so many giant holes that you could easily poke in this case if it was the most solid case of all time.
It sure does seem like it. I mean, at this point, it sounds like they have pieced together his entire kill kit. From the mask to the knife to the sheath, the sharpener, the jumpsuit. I wouldn't be surprised if they found Vans shoes somewhere and other types of shoes and booties.
That's 13, right?
This
It's so hard because it's like, dude, really what it is like, to be honest, I think the bigger thing that people should be a little bit maybe more aware of is like, right now it's this monster, Bryan Kohberger, everyone's talking about, right? Look at how many people believe this. Look at how many people will go to war with you over this, come at you personally, attack you, just emotionally lose their minds on you if you say that it's not him. And then you put yourself in that position where it could be you. That is terrifying, everybody. If this was the most solid case, as I was saying, the feds shouldn't have had to use a legal loophole to get his DNA without a warrant, because the reason they probably had to use that legal loophole is because they couldn't get a warrant. You want to know why they couldn't get a warrant? Because they didn't have what do you got to call that? The reasonable whatever it is. They didn't have the shit to get the warrant, is what I'm saying. So they had to use the legal loophole of the third-party databases when we all click terms and conditions. And as I've made the joke, your cousin spit into a tube 10 years ago to see if he's Viking. And now they link it back to your family tree. And it's from 2,000 miles away out of a trash can. And they make everything sound suspicious. Everybody in the Dateline episode, he was so creepy. He was so weird. Really? I mean, he's brand new in town. He's brand new in town. Hiking alone. He's going to parties where he doesn't know people. He's going up to them and talking to them. Like, how about put yourself in his shoes? He's on the spectrum, trying to meet friends in a new college town, pursuing a PhD. I've always said, too, that text, they say it's way too formal. It's kind of weird. Well, it would also be weird if he was like trying to spit game on her and talk about how good her ass looked in a bikini. And I'm using that as an example. Then it would be like, that's creepy. But he's like, hey, we talked about hiking. I enjoy that activity. And he still gets roasted. Like, what's the guy supposed to say to not make him look creepy? You can't escape this narrative. When they have you in the crosshairs, they have you. And that's what should scare people.
As well, I thought that was interesting. As far as the purchase goes, to me, if he did use a gift card, that just shows that he was trying to hide the purchase, and not very well, because he still got it delivered to his house by name. When you mentioned the FBI, I thought this case could have easily gone to the FBI, given the fact that a lot of that kill kit was purchased in Pennsylvania. He traveled to Washington. If he was doing some following online, one could perceive that some of that following may have been done in Washington. He crossed state lines to go and park at their residence, and for at least on one night for over an hour, between 10 to 4 a.m. Those are all pretty big signs that this could have gone federal. But they went through the state, and from based on what you're telling me, it sounds like they got a strong case against them.
Yeah. One of the reasons that you can make it a federal case is if you conspired. If you're sitting there and you're doing things online, I think I'd have to go back and review the actual provision, but it talks about if you're committing a crime and you're using a computer to do the crime, and that K-bar being ordered there means that he's got premeditation and he started planning it back there and then went and committed it in another state or relocated to another state from the origins of the crime, and then jumped over to Idaho. So I definitely think it could have qualified for a federal case, and I think they would have. I think there was really a close battle, and there was some back and forth on who was going to take this case over, but there was so much evidence that they were like, let's just let them. It is an Idaho thing. Let them have it. And I know one thing that they told me was don't expect the death penalty if it goes federal.
Oh, got you. Yeah, that makes a big difference there.
Yeah, and I 100% wanted the death penalty. So that was one of the biggest reasons why we kept it where it was.
There you go. That makes the biggest difference there for me as well. Kind of going back to that night, there's video of a vehicle that's traveling around. There's also a video from another place on Linda Lane that captures also some traveling around. Early on, there was a lot of speculation. Some people still point at this, that they can hear things throughout earlier portions of the night. I'm not sure if you have or not, but if you heard any of the audio that may be closer to the victims' homes, do you hear any of those such things? Do you think there may be some sort of play with the audio on some of those footages?
I know the backstory of where that Linda Lane came from, and it was a money grab. It was literally, I know the exact person that went and purchased this thing, and so they tried to get me to release it or discuss it or bring it up in one of the interviews that I was doing, and it get me to echo some of the things that were on it. So I had some people look at it themselves, and they were like, it's either been the audio has been manipulated, or it's so poor quality that they didn't have any confidence in it.
Okay. I'm going to try to say this like calmly. You can't tell me that you can manipulate. Look, you can manipulate audio. Okay. We understand that. How do you manipulate audio so perfectly with random timestamps, background noises that lines up with other cars in the other cameras that you see on the Lino lane where the audio will match up to where it lines up perfectly with all the other night? How do you get all of that stuff that you can't originally hear unless you reduce the background noise or just kind of isolate a certain part of that clip? And you, I've never understood that. How can you say that it's manipulated or it's poor quality? Well, people have systems to make it not poor quality. And so I don't know. That's something that's really bothered me. You can't just say that it is manipulated. Why wouldn't there be proof then that it's manipulated? I don't know. You probably can't prove it. Why would it get leaked then? Why would now the judge be coming after these leaks if there was no weight to them? If they're just manipulated and they're fake and it's just a bunch of conspiracy theorists, why would it matter if it was leaked? No, it's probably because it's legit.
And some of the things that are the times don't match up to the times that I know my daughter was moving and doing and sending taxes and all these different things. So, and plus we had the 1112, I think that is the other surveillance that basically we could hear a lot clearer during the exact same times. So anyone who thinks that they're breaking a case over these cameras and whatever they're hearing, it's kind of naive. It's naive to think that you heard something and everybody's going to throw this investigation off and not and you know overlook something that you found is so amazing. You know, this true crime stuff is it's an eye opener. You know, it sucks to have your daughter's murder be like some form of somebody's like entertainment. You know, and they like to go out there and stir up their followers and make you know narratives that are more like for novels than real life, you know. So it's terrible. And I don't know what I'm going to do if I ever cross one of these people.
Yeah,
I've thought to myself, do I just go to jail?
What the?
And you know, do I just
not worth it.
But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, you know.
Yeah.
And that's not most of them. There's only a few that are like that. I mean, most people are trying to be honest and like you are and you have been. And it does, and I don't even expect you to always be right. You know, we haven't been right every time either. So,
was that a threat that he made? Because it sounded like a threat.
Expect people to be honorable and don't purposely spin a narrative that you know in the back of your mind is false, and you just hope that your users never, you know, cross the same information that you found. You know, you go suppress certain things to keep your narrative alive longer. I'm almost positive that there's people doing that because I've seen other people make comments that said, "Hey, this happened at this time. This doesn't follow your scenario," and then they just strike that, you know, that thing's been deleted, you know, they delete it after a certain amount of time. So it tells me that this person isn't after the truth. They're just after, you know, rallying up their followers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I've seen that. I've seen that in a few different cases where, in different ones too, where this mob just kind of gets out of control, which is one of the things that I really try to go up against here on this channel is to put out there what's correct and accurate versus and to combat those that are trying to manipulate what is put out there. There's been literally a situation where there was a scenario with the DNA in this case where they were talking about how it doubled up. And the way it was explained to me was as if you had like an audio where you wanted to play an MP4 and an MP3, you had to change it. And so now you have the MP3 and the MP4, but they're both the same thing. And yet, on these pro burger channels, they just hear that it doubled, that they hit the pause button. They don't go into the explanation of why it is.
I will go into the explanation right now. Why would it double in size? Well, it's because they use the same mechanism. If you guys remember back during the vid when they did the PCR testing, they take a snippet of DNA and they spin it and it exasperates the particles in it until it can get a reading on it. And when DNA comes back with no chain of custody in a Supreme Court case where a man's life's on the line And the defense attorney for the defendant, who is again supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, asks what happened after it left the lab and before it got to the FBI, or vice versa, however that order went. Where's the chain of custody? Who worked on it? Who touched it? Why is it doubled in size? Well, probably because it was manipulated. I've also said this too. I'd be curious if the whole going through the garbage 2,000 miles away in Pennsylvania is just a cover. And I'm sorry, but I guarantee you that these DNA databases, when you send your spit in a tube to them, I would highly doubt they just do the test and then they throw it away. They are keeping all this shit on hand, or they're selling it off. You can't tell me that the feds couldn't go and actually just look up what third-party database someone in Koberger's family had used and go to that company and just get it directly and then have to go grab a piece of trash and say, we got it off the trash, just like in the movies. Believe us. See? Look at the match. We got such a good DNA read on this piece of trash 2,000 miles away, but the button of a knife sheath that was apparently there during the unalivings, that's now just like mitochondrial DNA. Just look over here. Don't look over there. Let us do whatever we want. You guys click terms and conditions. We don't care about your rights. Be quiet, dirty American. Like, I'm so sick of this shit. Sorry for the rant.
They leave a huge piece of context out. And that's what we tried to add on here, is that context, to make sure that everybody understands exactly what's going on. You brought up something interesting. You brought up the 1112 King Road video. Without going into too many details, because I don't want to violate any gag order, but when you have the opportunity to maybe view it or not, is there a distinct time difference between the DoorDasher? Do you see a DoorDash vehicle? And is that vehicle different than the white vehicle that is suspected to be Brian Koberger's?
What I seen, yes, it's a different vehicle. The times line up with what the courts have specified. I often wonder if that vehicle crosses paths with the white Elantra. It looks to line up to where they possibly do, and that'd just make the case even that much stronger. Especially now, I don't the age of that car. I don't know if it would have a camera, and I don't know what. I've never done Uber Eats or any of those type of things, so I don't know what their rules are. If you have to have some way of tracking your vehicle, but yeah, they're things.
Okay, I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there. I don't know what's going on with the chat. We got all of the players here. We got Steve G, Farley, and Taylor's in here. I'm sure DM or BF will make an appearance. These are clearly not the real people. I don't think anyone's dumb enough to think that it actually is. But I just need to put that disclaimer out there. I'm aware of it. So I don't think that they're truly trying to impersonate. I think it's funny. You guys got to remember, this is the internet. Yes, this is a serious topic. However, I think one of the reasons why the Hive Mind works is we don't block people or not let people talk about it. So it is what it is. I think that that's why this chat is so good, is because you hear all angles. And it's a huge problem in our society that we can't get past the initial point of disagreement. And so at the end of the day, it's a chat on a YouTube live, and everyone is free to do what they want as long as they're not, completely disrupting it. Obviously, then I will take action, but I don't like doing that. I don't like doing that. I hate when it's done to me, so I don't want to do it to others. And at the end of the day, I think that one of those things, or any one of those things, is perfectly okay to be doing as long as it's within reason. It's not crazy, outrageous shit. And I think that that's what makes the Hive Mind as awesome as it is. So moving on.
There's certain cameras that are a lot better at detailing what's going on. And they've triangulated all of the cameras together. So they're not relying on just one. And the timing that they do, between when it hits one and then goes.
We should do a mock trial with all the players in here, huh? That would be that would be interesting, and I'm sure that would be. Man, that's hilarious. Outcast is in the house.
To another, then they can tell you the speed that it was doing. So that white car was all over that crime scene, and the person had their phone off, which we knew very early on with those FBI saying that we're almost looking more for someone who turned their phone off during these times. That was more of a red flag to them.
Hey,
than
shut up,
having a phone
Outcast.
on.
Thank you, brother.
Now most of the phones. Now, of course, they're going to.
What happened at 4 a.m.? Is it on your profile? We were watching your Banfield footage. But no, thank you, dude. Appreciate you.
I go through all those people in that area and look for out of area numbers. So if those girls, their numbers weren't as interesting as if somebody that was from, let's say, Montana went through there, that had not shown up ever on all the previous dumps that they weren't just dumping that day. They were putting together all the things. So they were looking for outsiders, and they were also looking for somebody who had turned their phone off. Because what do college students never do? They never turn their phones off.
Right.
They never turn them off. I mean, they put them on a charger next to their bed. Why would your phone go off? And I used to have the exact term on this, but some of the Garretts, some of the people that I've spoken with, Shadow Dragon, there's a hard close. Don't quote me if that's the exact word it is. I'd have to go look at my records, but there's a way that they can identify when a phone's been turned off and how it's been turned off. And they can even tell you if the battery life, what it is. So when this moron turned off his phone, hard turned it off with 90 some plus battery life, and he's sitting in his car driving around.
I've had just about as much of that as I can handle. So, with that being said, I think that it's time for the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day. And my question to you, Hive, is when was the last time that you guys saw a baby pigeon? And if you've never heard this theory, you guys might think I'm trolling right now, but there could be something to it. There was a real operation called Operation Wingspan where the feds supposedly phased out real pigeons in urban centers and replaced them with robotic lookalikes equipped with mini cameras, audio surveillance, and facial recognition. Why do you think pigeons aren't afraid of people? Because they're tracking us. They don't fly south. They go in for software updates, everybody. The flocks that fly in perfect unison, their network syncing. Can't you see that? And during the COVID lockdowns, the skies are empty. Why? Because the pigeons, they don't need to be following us. The whole grid was already shut down. Less movement, less surveillance is required. They're able to recharge wirelessly on power lines. So that might sound crazy. I wouldn't put it past the government that loves and cares about us so much and would never, ever, ever here in America ever overstep our American rights and track us through fake birds. But with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed this stream. I'm going to be back on TikTok, 7 p.m. Central. It's Birdie. It's the same handle. Please subscribe to this channel. It's officially 1 month old from the time that I had to get this new one. So if you subscribe to the old one, you won't be seeing any of the streams get uploaded for the full streams. I upload them all the next morning, so the following day. And I'm going to have Phoenix on tonight, and I think Phoenix has got some crazy stuff that she found out this weekend. So I would tune into that 7 p.m. Central over on TikTok. Thank you for everybody that joined. I hope you all had an awesome day. Outcast, you're the man. Thank you for the donations. I appreciate that. Please subscribe, like the chat, and Until next time, cheers, everybody.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.